I did an interview with Peter Shumlin and Deb Richter back last fall, and one of the things I suggested to Deb Richter was that medical education at UVM should be made free. The state should pay for medical education for all of the students at UVM. Now that sounds, she thought, well, that was a bit much, but that's the truth. That's the way things actually are in Europe. You can go to medical school for free. And so then when you get out, there are enough doctors so that people can get medical care.
Yeah.
And a doctor isn't $100,000 in debt, so he doesn't feel that he has to give you only 5 minutes because he's got to make up the money to pay off his debt for his tuition.
Well, what we've done with healthcare this year is moving towards what you see more in Europe, single payer or socialized medicine, where everybody's covered, saves money on the whole. I mean, if we just kept paying what we pay today in Vermont, but we organized it differently, we can cover everybody. In fact, we get a discount. We get money back. One of the principles we put into the H202, which is now law, was recognizing that practitioners, docs, nurses, and so on, our hospitals, and our university health center, our medical school, are integral players in our healthcare system. And we also, one of the principles was that people need to have a primary care physician, that people need to be intimately connected with their healthcare system, and that should come through primary care, family doctor, or general practitioner, whatever you want to call them. And part of our long-term vision will be the state taking some of the money we save by going into this system and investing it in making sure that there are enough primary care doctors around the state. So one of the strategies to do that might be to look at creative ways to help people afford to go to UVM Med School. And you say, look, we will give you free tuition if you promise to spend 10 years practicing in Vermont, something like that. And I think that's going to have to be part of the discussion, because otherwise people do come out. They come out $100,000, $200,000 in debt. I mean, this is like a full mortgage on top of, no doubt, a mortgage to pay off medical school. And it does a few things. It means that docs can't spend as long with each patient because they got to see a lot. It also means that docs have pressure to pick sort of higher level, if I don't even want to call it that, but specialties like that pay more. So we have fewer people going to general medicine and general family physicians because those don't pay as well as osteopaths or gynecology or brain surgery or whatever it is. So any healthcare system that we move forward into in Vermont is going to have to look at a lot of those pieces because they do fit together. And the way we fit them together is going to mean the difference between success or not, I believe.
We talked about the Gilded Age, and on page 243 here, Bernie addresses that issue. He says, the Republicans want to bring this country back to where we were in the 1920s. The 1920s was the period of the robber barons that people
Sure.
Studied in high school. But healthcare is also, Bernie talks about healthcare too. 50 million people have no health insurance. That's on page 201. Unemployment is now 9.8%, and the real unemployment rate, people have stopped given up, is 17%.
Right.
And then he says 50 million people don't have any health insurance at all.
Yeah. Well, even in Vermont, 50 million out of 300 million, actually we're doing better per capita in Vermont, but the estimate is approximately 50,000 Vermonters out of our 600,000 have no health insurance. But about 150,000 Vermonters are underinsured. So when you put them together, you're talking about a third of the state have either no or inadequate health insurance. And underinsured means everything from very high deductible. For years I had a $10,000 deductible, you know, which meant if I broke my leg, I was paying cash for it, basically. And I didn't break my leg, so that's good. But that's not a very affordable solution for many people. Now, or it means you have just weak coverage in one way or another, high deductible, or you have you know, very limited coverage and so on. So they're underinsured. So while they're paying something for insurance, they're not really getting a full comprehensive coverage that provides security for them or maybe their family, and sort of guarantees that health care is, they have access to it and is affordable. So even in Vermont, you know, again, about a third of our folks are not getting the health care that we would think of as a standard what people should have. So I think that's another motivation for it. And then in Vermont, we see it creeping up to almost 20% of our state spending. Almost 20% of our economy, $1 out of $5 goes to health care in Vermont. And that, we are ahead of the nation on that. We're approaching 18%. The nation is about 16% of the GDP goes to health care. It's not sustainable. And when opponents came into our committee to argue with what we were trying to do, I would often ask, well, you know, what percentage do you think is appropriate for us to spend on health care? Is it 25%? Is that what you want? Because the costs have just been escalating for years and years. And it was a fun question to ask because nobody really had a good answer. We have seen, you know, one of our goals out of the bill that we just passed was created the Green Mountain Care Board, 5 people that will have a lot of control over health care and over health care costs and implement different strategies for savings and ultimately implement Green Mountain Care. At the turn of the last century, we had a bit of a similar situation with utilities. Electric utilities, electricity was beginning to be more widespread, and you saw the percentage of state spending going to electricity was creeping up and reaching near 10%. And the legislature created the Public Service Board, and with similar powers to what we've done with the Green Mountain Care Board. And electric utilities started shrinking as a percentage of our economy, came down to the 3% range. And now over 100 years later, is about 5%, I want to say. So it's been very effective, and it's not like our energy companies are going bankrupt. I mean, they're making good profits, but with the correct oversight and some regulation, you're able to get a grip on the costs, and we hope that'll be the case for healthcare. It's essential.
We talk about what percentage we should spend on healthcare, but in Europe, the countries spend half of what we do.
Yep, per person. Yep.
And they cover everyone.
Yep. Yep. No, we're wildly out of step. That's what's so galling about it. Is it's more expensive and lower quality in terms of covering everybody. We have, if a wealthy person in Europe or in Saudi Arabia or somewhere wants a highly specialized treatment or procedure, they come to the U.S. So for the gold standard high level stuff, we lead the world on that. But on average, we're not doing very well on things like infant mortality rates, obesity, certainly diabetes, preventable diseases we do pretty badly with. And overall, I think the World Health Organization ranks us 37th in the world. So our spending per person is way eclipsed any other country. Canada is a little over half of what we spend per person, and in Europe it's about that too. And they generally get better results for it. That's what's so galling about it. We like to be the best at things, and we're far from the best at healthcare.